Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 14 of the Christmas Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing 20 Christmas-themed Cricut projects to make over 20 days. Today's project is this beautiful layered cardstock design with a mistletoe image and a pretty gold background. This is lovely for going in a shadow box frame, or you could size it smaller to go on a greetings card, or you could even tweak it a little bit and make your very own hanging mistletoe with a little hook to hang some ribbon through and make it double-sided so you could put this up in your doorways closer to Christmas to sneak a kiss with anyone who walks through the door. I'll show you how to make both versions of this mistletoe in this video. Let's get started. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Christmas Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas24. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas24 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Christmas Craft Countdown, plus lots of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. This is what the mistletoe design looks like when it's loaded into Cricut Design Space. If you're not sure how to get to this stage, go to the schedule page for the Christmas Craft Countdown and look in the Foundation Learning section for a link to a separate tutorial on how to upload SVG files into Cricut Design Space. I'll be making this mistletoe in two different ways in the video. The first is exactly as it comes, but I will change the size a little bit. And the second way will be to add a hoop so that you can hang the mistletoe up between the doorway, ready for any sneaky kisses over the festive season. To resize the layered design, click on it and make sure the padlock icon above the width and the height box is closed. If yours is open, you can click on it to close it. Then you can type either the width or the height, press enter on your keyboard and the other measurement will change in proportion. I think this design looks lovely if 2 shades of gold card are used for the background. It makes it extra shiny and really festive and lovely. You can see all the layers by opening up the little arrow in the layers panel, and each of the berries on the mistletoe will cut separately. These are fairly small, and because they're white, they're quite easy to lose as well, especially if you've got a white work surface like I do, because they just completely blend in. So what I am going to do is just make a copy of some of these little circles so I've got some spare. That way, if I lose any along the way, I don't need to recut it. I've already got some spare already cut out. So to do that, just click on any of the circles over in the layers panel and then press the duplicate button, and that will make a copy. Scroll up and then you'll see your copy right at the top over there. I'm going to use the keyboard on my mouse to move it out the way. You can press the shift key as you're pressing the arrows to make that go a little bit quicker. Then I'll click that new one and just duplicate a few more so that I cut some spare. They're so small that it's not a waste of cardstock, but honestly it's going to be so much easier to have a couple of extras. When you're happy with how everything's looking in Design Space, press Make. And that will then start the cut process by separating out all the colours. You can see now how teeny tiny these circles are. You can change the paper size in the drop down here, and it'll probably be more obvious on this one. But you can also drag and drop things if you want to use up less space on your cardstock. Just make sure when you're moving things about that none of the shapes overlap, otherwise they won't cut out properly. When you're happy with how everything's looking in Design Space, press Continue to connect to your Cricut, and then I'll show you how to stick it all together once it's cut from cardstock. Here are the pieces of my mistletoe layered design all cut out, and I have laid all the bits one on top of the other, apart from all the little berries which are here in a pile, to check that I'm happy with all of the colours and that I haven't missed anything along the way. I'll be sticking this together with a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Bearly Art Glue. but I also like halal. And the reason I like these two glues is that they don't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like some other glues can do. To add some dimension, we'll be using foam squares. Mine are from Dot & Dab, but any will do. If yours are bigger, you might need to cut them smaller with some scissors. We want to start at the bottom and then work upwards, so I'll move the pieces of the mistletoe away. Then I've just got my background, and I've done this in 2 shades of gold for a little bit of sparkle. I'm trying to pick this up to show you the light. You see it's sort of shimmery a little bit in my camera lights. Okay, so we're going to glue the patterned piece on top of the solid one. I've not put glue on every single little line in there because they're very narrow, but I have tried to get some on all of the bigger bits and also all the way around the edge. Let's bring this back in and then stick it on top and then push down gently because you don't want to smush your glue out of any of those thin areas. And just make sure you've got it all lined up nicely. Yeah, that's the background, all finished. Next, we've got the biggest piece of the mistletoe leaves, which is the darkest green. This one will be going on like this, and we'll use some foam squares to give it a bit of pop. Add a good amount of foam squares to the leaves. You might need to cut them smaller to fit in the gaps, especially if you've made this mistletoe design quite small, but by putting quite a few in, it means it'll be really nice and secure. If you missed off most of the leaves, then you might find that you catch it accidentally when you're framing it, or especially if you're just displaying it not in a frame, just kind of propped up, or maybe using some of the easel stands or triangular stands from the Foundation Learning section of the Christmas Craft Countdown. Those are some free SVGs on how you can display layered designs without having to put it in a frame, but without the glass of the frame to protect it. Just make sure you have stuck everything on well. You don't want it to get caught or damaged, especially after you've put all this work into making it beautiful. I'm trying to put quite a few of my foam squares on here, and ideally some in the ribbon. Make sure none of the foam squares go outside the edge of the card, otherwise you'll be able to see it. And we do not want to see it, we want it all to be nice and hidden. And these little bits I'm putting on now are ones that I've cut smaller, so I just ran some scissors down the middle of some of those foam squares to cut them down to size. And now I've got all of those on there, I can peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. That's all of them done, but I have missed a foam square off of that little leaf. I'll put one in there. There we go. Okay, bring the background back in. And then I'm going to line this up using the bottom bits here and also the top bit of the stems to know where to put it. And then gently drop it down when you think you've got it in position. The reason for gently dropping it is that if you didn't quite have it where you wanted, you can easily pick it up and move it because it hasn't actually stuck yet. And then when you are happy, push down to get all those foam squares nice and stuck. We're moving on now to the second of the green layers. This is our mid-coloured green. This one again will be a foam square layer. I've run out of my cut foam squares, so I thought I'd just show you what I'm doing for them. And I'm just running down a row with a pair of scissors to cut them in half and make them smaller. Then I can get them in all of those little spaces that the bigger ones might not have fitted in. I managed to stick it to my fingers. There we go. seem to have some vendetta against this leaf because I've missed it again. I think it's the exact same one I missed last time. There we go. Oh, stuck to my fingers again. Right. And this is going to go on top. You can use the bow to line it up, and also it comes down the full length of this side. It will line up with the leaves on that dark colour. There we go. And then one more green layer, also a foam square piece. So all these bits ready. So I can put this one on, lining it up along those leaves. And also the bow. This one is very delicate. Be careful you don't tear anything. Beautiful. Now I've got my bow. I'll glue the bottom layer of the bow on and then foam square the middle of it on top. You could foam both bits if you want to add even more pop, but I kind of think it's already fairly 3D now. That one on there. Then there's the middle section. One tiny bit of foam square and put that in the middle. Okay, now we've got the tricky bit, which is putting all of the little circles in the right places. I'm going to use foam squares for them. I'm feeling adventurous, but you may prefer to glue them on as they are quite small. And I think I'm going to have to refer back to either the project in Design Space or the assembly guide to see just where all of these go, because I'm not sure all of them are that obvious just by looking at what we've got here. Some of them are, you can kind of see where the outlines of the circles go, but some of them will need a bit more investigating. I have a feeling there's more than that. I think there's some here. Okay, there should be two here. There and there. Need more tiny foam squares. Then got the design open behind me. There's actually 3 here in a little bundle. Got that one. Got one there. Then there should be one here. And another one there. And then 3 here. I've got 2. There's one more there. And then 3. And then 1. And there we go. Alright, now I need to try and peel the tops off of these tiny bits, which is always rather difficult. Now I can pick up all of my tiny circles and place one on each of those foam square pieces. Oops, and try not to stick your finger to them like I just did. It probably would have been a lot easier to glue them, but I like a challenge, and I kind of feel like the berries should be done with the foam to make them more dimensional. Because if you think about it, if you're looking at real mistletoe, the berries are going to be all round and sticking out from the leaves. Right, there we go, and these are all my spare ones that I cut, so I don't need those. And that's my mistletoe layered cardstock design all finished. This would be ready to go in a frame or standing up on one of those stands I mentioned earlier. But if you'd prefer to make this so you can actually hang it in the doorway or somewhere else for those hidden Christmas moments, here's how you can tweak the design in Cricut Design Space to make a hanging version of the mistletoe instead. Now let's have a look at how we can change this from a standard layered cardstock design into a hanging mistletoe decoration. First, I'll drag a box around all those extra circles I cut and delete those. Don't need them right now. Then I'll click on the design and press the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel to separate out all the pieces. Scroll right down to the bottom of the layers and we've got the 2 gold pieces near the bottom. Press one of them and then the Delete key on your keyboard, or you can press the trash can at the top of the Layers panel and then do the same for the other one. So now we've just got the mistletoe left. I want to add a loop to the top of this so that I can hang it up with some ribbon. First, I'll zoom in to make it a little easier to see what I'm doing. Then go into Shapes and choose a circle. Then click Shapes again to hide that menu. I'm going to make this the size that I want to make my hanging loop. So this will be the whole size in the middle. That's probably about right. And then to make the cardstock outline, press Offset. And I'm actually just going to move my circle over here so that I can see the offset size. So when you click Offset, this is going to add a border around the edge. This is quite thick at the moment. Let's drag it a little smaller. We want it thick enough that it'll be nice and sturdy and able to support the whole weight of the mistletoe, but not so thick that it becomes really obvious and a little bit ugly. That looks about right, so I'll press Apply. Drag a box around both of those circles. Down the bottom of the Layers panel, press Slice. That will cut your original circle out of the offset. So if I drag those apart, you can see I'm now left with this little ring. Delete the 2 solid circles and move the ring over, and I'm going to position it so that it is just overlapping into the green bits at the top. To make this super sturdy, I'm going to attach it to the bottom 2 green layers. It's not really needed on the top green one, the lightest one, so I'll leave it off from there. So let's look down the Layers panel. First, I'll hover my mouse over the ribbon layers, 2 of them, press the eye icon that appears to hide them, and then also that top mistletoe layer, the lightest green. I'll leave all the berries on display because they're kind of out of the way. They're not going to disturb what I'm doing. I want to make a copy of this ring in exactly the same place on the screen so that I can merge one of them with this middle green and one of them with the very dark green on the bottom. To do that, hover your mouse over the ring and then press the Alt key on your keyboard if you're on a Windows computer, or the Option key if you're on a Mac. Then wiggle your mouse ever so slightly and move it over that circle. You see when I did that, I've got my Alt key pressed and move the mouse. It changes to get a little plus icon next to it. Now that I can see that plus, I can click with my mouse and it will repeat a copy. It will duplicate in exactly the same place. You can see I've now got 2 of them in my Layers panel. To show you what it's done, I'll change the colour of one of them. And then if I hide that layer, you can see I've still got the original one underneath. So I'll click that original one and then press Shift on the keyboard and choose one of the green layers. You can see if I scroll down, I've got that selected. And then press Combine and Weld. And that will join the circle on. It's fine that there's still a few little bits of the stems poking out into the hole. There's still more than enough room in there for me to get some ribbon through. When you weld a layer, it moves it to the top of the Layers panel. So I'm going to put that all the way down again to where it's supposed to go. Then hide that layer. Turn on my second little ring. And then select that and my green. And go Combine, Weld to join those ones on. And then arrange, center back, or you can click and drag it down the Layers panel. Now if I turn everything back on by hovering and clicking the eye icon, this is now what I've got. So my mistletoe has a lovely ring at the top to enable me to hang it up. If you're hanging this somewhere where it will be visible from both sides, then it's really nice to make a copy and stick 2 back to back so that it's pretty from both sides. To do that, drag a box around everything, or you can press Select All along the top, and then group all your layers again by pressing the group button at the top of the layers panel. Size it to however big you want to cut it out. I think I will go 7.5 inches tall. And then press the duplicate button at the top of the layers panel. This has made a copy, but we're not quite done yet because if I tried to stick these back to back at the moment, it's not going to line up. What you need to do with your copied mistletoe is press flip along the top and then flip horizontal. So this one will be cutting in the opposite direction, which means they'll be able to be stuck perfectly back to back with each other. Just like I did with the first one that I've already shown you how to stick together, I am going to duplicate some of these circles just in case I lose any along the way. Now it's ready to save and then cut out. So go ahead and do that and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all put together. Here are my 2 hanging pieces of the mistletoe. I've already stuck all the bits together and this time I kept it a bit simpler. I glued all of the green bits together and I glued on the big ribbon and I only used my foam square for the middle of the ribbon and the berries. You could keep it exactly the same as the first one and use lots of foam squares for loads of dimension, but I decided I'd rather keep it a little bit simpler. So I've got my front and back here. So all that's left to do is to turn one over and then glue them back to back. I've put quite a bit of glue on here as this will be heavy with all the bits of card. Ooh, just lost a foam square on there. Where did that come from? Let's put it there. All right, glue these on. It will line up exactly because we flipped one of them to make that mirror image. Getting all that glue pushed really securely. And now I've got my double-sided mistletoe. All I'll need to do a little bit closer to Christmas is thread some ribbon through, then I can hang this up somewhere. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make either hanging mistletoe or this pretty mistletoe layered design in time for Christmas. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Christmas crafts and Cricut projects. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 15 of the Christmas craft countdown, but for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!